Good morning and welcome to Immigration Wednesdays. I'm attorney Jeff Peek with Los Abogados, also known as Peek and Tolan. And today we're going to talk a little bit about how a violent crime in Texas might affect you if you are an immigrant or somebody trying to get status and you have not yet become a citizen. So there's very different levels of crimes, violence in Texas, very different types. It could be as serious as kidnapping or murder or down to just a regular assault. Obviously there's different punishment phases for each one of those, so we're going to go through those a little bit right now to let you know if you are somebody who's trying to get an immigrant family member papers or you have friends who are immigrants and they're in this situation, it's very important to know these details. Now there's also the other side, not just being the accused of a violent crime, being the victim of violent crime, and sometimes there's benefits for those who are victims of violent crime who cooperate with the police. Today we're going to talk about just those who are accused. Next Wednesday we're going to talk about those who are victims. So, the most common crime in Texas, probably outside of drugs or DWI, is assault. Now assault is just two people fighting in general. Now when it's a misdemeanor, that's generally two people fighting who don't know each other, just the old good old-fashioned fist fight, alright? Pushing, scratching, clawing, pulling hair, throwing people down. You might get hurt pretty bad, but generally if it's just hands, if there's no major injuries, nobody had to go to the hospital, you're generally going to be charged with a Class A assault. Maximum punishment is jail, 1 year. There's no minimum. You might get probation, it's very typical. Those crimes can be a problem for an immigrant. Where it becomes really complicated is when the fight is, instead of just between two strangers, is between two family members, most commonly between spouses or girlfriend and boyfriend, and that becomes domestic violence. It's the same level of charge the first time, but domestic violence is its own ground of deportation under the Immigration Nationality Act. So you got to be careful, not thinking just because it's a simple misdemeanor that you're okay. No. Crimes of violence, as they're called in the Immigration Nationality Act, are deportable offenses. It can be very problematic, even if you're already a permanent resident. So anytime you're charged with those crimes, you need to consult with somebody who knows both criminal law and immigration law, because we have seen too many clients who've been in deportation proceedings just for taking a probation on a domestic violence case. Had they known, they could have avoided it. Okay? Now, what gets something jumped up to a felony? Well, if you have prior convictions for domestic violence, the second time can be a felony. If it's a strangulation incident where you're accused, even though it's the first time, of grabbing somebody by the neck and impeding the airway, impeding their breathing, that can be called assault strangulation. It's a third-degree felony, okay? Or you have the continuous assault provisions of domestic violence where you have multiple assaults accused over a period of 30 days, and that can become a felony even though it's just your first time ever being charged with a crime. So you need to notice those distinguishes. You can very easily find yourself being charged with a felony. And of course, felony crimes of violence are important because felony sentences almost always have sentences over 1 year in jail that go along with them when you're talking about violent crimes. And there's something in the Immigration Nationality Act, a chapter that talks about what makes something an aggravated felony. Now, we have aggravated felonies in Texas. This is a different federal definition. And one definition of an aggravated felony is somebody gets a sentence on a crime of violence, and that word crime of violence is important, for 1 year or more. Well, if you're sentenced for probation on a third-degree felony domestic violence case, strangulation, and you get sentenced to 2 years in jail, but they give you probation, meaning you don't have to do the 2 years. Well, even though you got probation, that sentence is a crime of violence more than 1 year. It's an aggravated felony. Now all of a sudden you got big problems over on the immigration side. So again, the importance of having somebody who knows both those areas. Okay, let's talk about other things that can get it to the level of aggravated felony. What is an aggravated assault in Texas? So aggravated assault is something that happens when somebody does something that either causes serious bodily injury or death, or the threat of serious bodily injury or death. So the most common you might think is somebody grabs a gun and shoots you in the leg. That's an aggravated assault. If they can show that you were trying to kill them, that could possibly be attempted murder. If they actually kill you, it could be murder. But what if you just take out your gun, you point at somebody and says, "Get to your knees and beg me for mercy"? All right? The threat is real. You have the gun, you're right in front of them, and their fear for their life, fear of serious bodily injury or death, you've just committed aggravated assault, even though it's just a threat. Okay? Same thing can happen with a knife. Okay? You don't actually have to stab. If you stab somebody, that's aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. What if you just get somebody close and you held up to the neck and said, "Give me, stay away from my daughter, I'm going to cut your throat"? All right? That's a threat, and it's real. You got a knife. Okay, so now, depending on how close you are, distance, there might be other intervening factors, but you need to take just the threat with deadly weapons are sufficient to sometimes get you to the level of aggravated assault. People don't realize that. The other thing they don't realize is what can be a deadly weapon. Well, for example, here I got a mop handle. You've unscrewed it to make it easier to handle. It's aluminum, hard aluminum metal. It's hard. If I hit a car or hit somebody in the kneecap or hit somebody in the head, that can cause serious damage and potentially kill them with it. This is enough to be a deadly weapon, depending on how you use it or threaten it. If the threat is real, you're coming at somebody like that, it's sufficient. If they feel like they're threatened, you could possibly get charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And it doesn't even have to be those kind of objects. What about a bar fight breaks out? You're drinking your beer, buddy gets pushed over, you see he's being, jumped by a couple guys, you decide you're going to flip that thing over and smack somebody in the head with it. Congratulations, friend, you just got charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Hopefully you don't cause serious brain injury, or it could even be more serious than that. And then even the most basic of all old school caveman weapons, the good old rock. This can be a deadly weapon, that's right. Now, in a few instances I've seen where you have a really large man fighting a much smaller man, or potentially a large man fighting maybe a female. And I have seen charges where people can be charged using their fists as deadly weapons. Now, I know that sounds like something from a movie, like a Chuck Norris thing, but it could be. I mean, people can kill people with their bare hands. Depending on how you use it and whether you're beating them, it could be aggravated. And certainly kicking somebody in the head with your boots or your shoes could cause serious bodily injury. So you just have to be aware of these different types of charges, what can get you from a misdemeanor up to a felony. Don't take it lightly. I've had so many different people in my office over the years charged with aggravated felonies, thinking this was just a simple fight. I didn't even hit him. I just took out something. I just tried to keep him away. You never know when you're going to find yourself charged with a second-degree felony just over something simple like that. Now, that's not to say there aren't defenses that you can assert. Maybe you had to defend yourself and you'll have a defense in court, but that doesn't mean they're going to stop from charging you. So know the things that can escalate it. And if you ever find yourself in that trouble, especially if you're an immigrant who, I just realized I cut my hand on that rock, see, I'm bleeding. Aggravated assault, there you go, that's all the proof you need right there. You can call us here at Peek and Tolan. We will try to do our best to defend you, do our best to try to get those cases dropped. But the best defense you have is not getting yourself in a situation where you're charged with a felony to begin with. I hope this conversation has helped you. Again, this really is for immigrants because we're trying to highlight the danger for them to be able to get status or potentially lose status if they already have it, if they find themselves charged with one of these serious crimes. Please don't be afraid to reach out if you have any questions. Again, my name is Jeff Peek, here with Peek and Tolan, and we'll see you next Wednesday.